Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to do this Libby Tumbler with UV DTFs. It's such an easy design. It makes for a really quick and simple gift, and these UV DTFs can be used on virtually any surface. Let's get started. Today I'm going to be using this glass Libby Tumbler that I got off Amazon. It is single walled. They do have some great ones available over at TIPSY Magnolia that has a snow globe option. It does come with a plug, and these are available in glass and acrylic. As a little prep, I went ahead and washed this with Dawn dish soap to get rid of any oils that may have been on the glass. We're going to put the lid aside because we don't need that right now. We want to double check the size of this wrap before we just lay it on the tumbler. As you can see, these softballs are fairly close together once this goes around the tumbler. I don't want them touching or overlapping, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this whole sheet down to size. I'm going to go ahead and trim off the line of baseballs and hearts that are right on the side of this little chick, and I'm going to do this on both sides of her. My thought process with that is that they're kind of evenly spaced right there, and if I left that on one side and only took off one of those sides, then I would have one really close to her, and then the other I would have to kind of scoot over, and it would look a little off. So we're going to get that out of the way so you can place those individually as needed. Remember that when you are cutting these out, don't go too close to the print. Around the print, there's the glue, and you don't want to trim away any of that glue and run into an issue with adhesive. The Libby glass that I'm using is fairly short compared to some other ones, so there isn't much room from where that print is going to end on the top and bottom of this glass to where the curve starts. With this UV DTF, all these prints, the print is ink. It is not vinyl pieced together. It's actually an ink with an adhesive on the backing of it. And if you were to bend that ink at all, it's going to crack the ink, and then it can separate a little, and you'll kind of have a gap in your image. So you can't put too much pressure, and it is not flexible, so be careful with that. I went ahead and trimmed off the top and bottom so that I can accurately get a spot for where this is going to go. We're going to apply this hinge method, so I'm starting right here by just taking a corner of this and cutting it off just a little. I'm not going to cut it off too much because I don't want any of it to adhere to the tumbler yet. I want to be able to line it up. So I have just a tiny bit trimmed off, you can see right there. I'm going to lay this all the way around the tumbler and make sure to have it lined up where the words on the top and bottom are going to end before the curve of the tumbler. You can see on the side that I'm kind of holding it right on her face. I'm not holding that one side where I cut. I'm not pushing that on the tumbler yet. I went ahead and wiggled that down into place to where I know that it's going to be level on the top and bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and turn this to the side, and you can see where I'm just sliding my fingers across right there, and I'm adhering the very outside of this to that space. If I wouldn't have had to trim down this area, I would have had a better spot for it to adhere, and it wouldn't be adhering on the actual image, but since I trimmed that down, I didn't have that extra room to grab on it. From there, I'm going to do just like I do every wrap, and I'm going to start in the middle and work my fingers to the middle and down and out to the sides. Doing that will help me make sure that this whole wrap applies without getting any type of bubble stuck in it. If you do have a bubble in UV DTF, it is fairly easy to clear that bubble out, but for the most part, if you go just a little at a time and just work it down in sections, you'll be able to lay it down without any bubbles. I'm leaving this little piece in so you can see it if you ever run into this problem. There's one spot on the back of here where it wasn't wanting to release from that little backing sheet. So I took my craft knife and I went ahead and just poked it off of that sheet. And then I was able to go ahead and just keep laying the rest of this print down. If I were to just power through without releasing that back piece, it would have stayed almost attached to that back carrier sheet. And it would have creased or kind of like bubbled in that section. And I think it was part of the word softball that kind of got stuck. So like I said, I got that all fixed out, and then I went ahead and continued on with the back end of this decal and just slid it on a little at a time, really making sure that I don't bend this print at all. And like I said, it's not flexible, so you can't pull it tight either. Once that's all down, I have my little squeegee, and I'm going to go through each of the little baseballs, hearts, and the girl, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have any bubbles behind it and that it's laying down really well onto the tumbler. If there are any bubbles that you see, don't worry about that right now. We're going to get to those whenever we release this carrier sheet. Just to explain these UV DTFs real quick if you haven't worked with them, it's the ink that's printed onto that back sheet that has that white that we put down at the beginning, and then there's this white, almost like a transfer tape that covers the whole image. In some cases, this tape is fairly hard to get off, and some of them peel off pretty easily. So what I like to do is sort of gently rock back and forth and release that tape just a little at a time. When you're releasing this, if you see that any of your image starts to get stuck on that little tape as you're pulling it off, go ahead and lay it back down and you can get it right back into place and then leave it there without it staying attached to your sheet. We're going to take these baseballs and go ahead and put these into place, but I'm just going to use one of these strips. You can do this one or two ways. You can either attach this whole strip like this, or you can, in the hinge method like we did the other ones, or you can break this all apart and space them out a little better and really apply them exactly where you want. It doesn't really matter if it was evenly spaced for this. I don't think you'd really be able to tell all that much unless you were staring it down. So I went ahead and just kept with how they were lined up to make it a little easier. Squeegee them into place and then go ahead and take this clear transfer and peel that off a little at a time, being careful to not remove any of your image. I'm going through just to make sure that they don't have any bubbles. At this point, if you do have a bubble, what you would like to do is get your craft knife and you could trim just a small slit in there and work out that bubble with your squeegee and lay everything back down. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and paint that lid, glitter it, even rhinestone it, but I kind of like the thought of it just being that bamboo lid, so I just left it as is. I will leave a link in the description of where you can find these UV DTFs for a really great price, and then all the snow globes, Tipsy Magnolia would be the place to get those at. Thank you so much for watching another one of my tutorials. Have a great day and stay tuned for the next one.